On the site of today's Church of St. Stephen, built in 1850, once stood an old church and monastery. Proof that the original church was built as early as the 6th century is an early Christian sarcophagus, decorated with a depiction of a cross, which was found at around 1900, not far from today's church. Another sarcophagus was allegedly found at the same time, but it remained buried. The making and delivery of the sarcophagus would have been very expensive, which speaks to the wealth of the owners of the villa to which the church belonged. The first record of the monastery dates back to 1251, but it must have existed before then. It was home to the Benedictine monks. The order spread along the eastern shores of the Adriatic in the 10th and 11th centuries, which is probably when they arrived in Barbat. The Benedictines looked for secluded places where they could pray and work in peace, and the location of the Barbat Monastery was at the time exactly such a place, secluded. The proximity to the sea made it possible for the monks to supply themselves with fish that they could eat on fasting days, if not more often. After the departure of the Benedictines in the 15th century, the monastery was handed over to the administration of secular clergymen, commendators who changed frequently. In 1677, Cardinal Pietro Bassadonna, a famous Venetian orator and diplomat, procurator of the Church of St. Mark in Venice, becomes the commendator. Along the entire Barbat shore, as homes are being built or vineyards being dug up, the remains of ancient graves and Roman coins were found. As there were no museums on the Rab, no one engaged in systematic research or collecting of the discovered object, so most of them were taken from the island. Yet, it is still clear that during ancient times, the people here were tied to the sea, whether through fishing or trade. With the weakening of the Roman Empire, and especially during the 7th and 8th centuries, the population declined and many villas were abandoned. From the 9th century on, the danger of pirates occasionally flared and locals began to build houses farther away from the sea. It was only with the advent of tourism, especially since the 1970s, that homes were again being built by the sea. Comparing aerial photographs from 1968 and 2011, it is easy to see the changes that took place in the development of the coast. Once a church with a hotel, a parish court, and the remains of a fraternal house formed a solitary group of buildings with a blacksmith's workshop located further away. An important feature of Barbat is its plentiful sources of drinking water. These springs made life much easier for the people who built their homes nearby, but also for sailors who could stock up on fresh drinking water. Vincenzo Maria Coronelli, a Venetian geographer who also studied the Kvarner area, recorded in 1696 the existence of the Osset Spring, Oshit, between the Church of St. Stephen and the Tower of Cernot, Castel, then the only two buildings that were located by the sea. Oshit is the only Barbat spring by the sea. It once flowed plentifully, and even today, it never dries up.